Good afternoon. Hello, Terry. I'm at Venus, one of the programmers of Thailand Black Night Film Festival. And today is a big honor and privilege and also responsibility to present a world premiere of a film called Until We Fall. It's a co-production between Denmark and Sweden. And this is a second feature film of Samanou Sahlstrøm. And Lisa, an actress, she also had a major performance in this film. And Dar, here, you probably know him from many performances in TV series and in real films. So Samanou, probably you can start. This is another huge, another journey for you. And where will you take us now in your new film?
Well, thank you for the kind words and for being good about talking about our film. I think, I think it's a film. As you said, it's a film that's where different emotions clashes. I think for me it was important to talk about to do a love story, but also to depict characters and how characters deal with a trauma. How do you cope with grief, and in that coping with grief, I kind of while I was writing, kind of realized that it was also a movie about hope for better or worse, in a way that I think we are all brought up to believe that hope is an essentially positive feeling, but I also think that hope can be a very dark and destroying emotion that can tear you apart. And I think that was something that was interesting to dive into it. And as you mentioned, I think my first film was a painful journey, and I think maybe this one is kind of a painful journey too, but in Spain, so it's a it's a sunnier version, and I think that I start with my own fears, and where my first film started with my own fear of death. The starting point for that film was the fear to lose the one you love, and what happens when you when this happens. And furthermore, I also wanted to try to describe characters that were true to the feeling of grief, in a way that it is very hard for people to handle people who are in grief. And I think that was a very interesting challenge to do in a film. How do you tell about grief when grief isn't logical, three-acted emotion that you easily can follow.
Lisa, this is, as you mentioned, this is your second film with Samanou. What changed for you? You probably participate from very beginning of inception of Until We Fall, and probably you was the first and the only choice for this performance.
It has been amazing to continue our job, because when you work together, you learn so much about each other, how you work, and I really love Samanou's writing. He wrote both these movies himself, and it's very inspiring to work with him, and because it worked so well the first time, I'm super happy and glad that we can continue, because then we can just dive deeper, and because we have such a good understanding of each other and the text, and it's just super nice to be able to continue.
And Dar, how did you came to this? How did you join to this journey? Did you see before In Your Arms?
Yes, I've seen the film. I mean, actually, very traditional way. Samanou called me for an audition, and we tested with me and different ladies also, and then he called me and asked if I want to do the film, and I said yes.
So easy.
Easy, yeah.
And Samanou, is your screenplay based on any true events, or maybe your experience, or
No. Thank God it's not based on any of my personal experiences. I mean, it's based on true fears, but no true events. But I must say that as I was writing, and I was not sure yet where to place the film, I had a discussion with my best friend, who told me that she had lost her brother in a very young age, and as she was telling me about the death of her brother, she explained how that happened during a very warm summer, and how the even though the grief was all over the place, you still have to go to the swimming pool because it was 40 degrees outside, and you still have to do those summery thing, because otherwise no one, you couldn't go through the day, and it felt like the sun was putting some mythological pressure on them, as it was trying to make it even harder to grieve, and I thought that was very touching and very beautiful, and also very sad, and then I thought that it was that emotion I wanted to try to use in the film.
And when I'll ask both actors, how did you prepare your roles? Do you have children? Maybe I'll start.
Yes, I have a son. Yes,
and Lisa. Yeah. So for you, it was also more easier to understand what does it mean to play parents who lose their child. Yes.
Yeah, I would like to say that for me, I don't try to play the loss, but the love.
Yeah.
And as you say, if you have a child and you understand what a love to a child is, then you can play it. And I think we both do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think every person who has children knows that there's a point in your life before and after you have kids. After you have kids, you have suddenly fear in your life. Before that, you can do anything, but after that, you want actually the world to be a good place, because you want your kids to, So, but I agree with Lisa. For me, it's a love story, and it's one of the best scripts I've ever read. So it's like Samanou says, you can talk about sorrow in different ways. Like you can do it in a sunny environment, and it's the same with this. You can talk about hope in a painful way, and you can talk about love in a tragic way, and these combinations, that meeting between those very different emotions, is what makes Samanou's films very interesting. So that was kind of the journey that we had.
I think when you're shooting abroad, there's also some economical aspects to it, which kind of also tend to reduce the possibilities. But we found out that the Canaries offered the both sun and economical what do you call that? Foundings that were very attractive for us, and so I think it was maybe quite late in the process, maybe 4 or 3 months before, but it was it was a pleasant experience, because the people down there are quite experienced, even though not, because there's a lot of movies that have been shot in Canaries, even though it's not always shot as if they are in the Canaries. But I think it was a good experience. I think it is tough to be abroad. It is tough to be shooting abroad all the time. But as you mentioned to me earlier before the interview, I tend to write stories about people on a journey, and which is a bit of a contradiction because I'm afraid of flying.
So you took a boat?
No, I wish I had. No, it's getting better now.
Because boat had to be hijacked.
And the CFOs.
Yeah. And then I'm very curious about your acting, how you prepared your roles, and this is also how maybe you will reveal to our audience how Samanou works. You got a final script, maybe you, and did you have to rehearse to do a rehearsals?
No, actually, we don't rehearse. The script is so strong. So when I work, I read it a lot, and I use a lot of time thinking and also talking to Samanou about his visions and stuff. And then I think we just do it. But so no, we don't rehearse in that sense. So it's more maybe intuitive way of making it. Basiro?
Yeah, I mean, I think you do your preparation. Everybody has their own way, and whatever it takes to understand these people in the script. As you say, you can use the fact that you have children yourself and all that. And when you're already on set, the difference between this and other productions is, as Lisa says, that Samanou likes to shoot from the beginning, which is an advantage sometimes, and sometimes it's really annoying. But it does bring some moments that he can use, which would have been lost otherwise. And also, he takes a lot of takes, like much more than I've ever tried in my life, which also is really frustrating sometimes as an actor, because you feel you've done everything. But then on take 22, maybe something happens that he can use, like just a little moment, 10 seconds, 1 second. And so it's a very different way of working, but at the same time, it was a good experience and inspiring. So it was different, yeah.
But Samanou, but it wasn't shot in chronological order.
No, it wasn't. Also because we shoot a lot of nights, so it would have been possible. But yeah, I think that sums it up quite well, and it is a way of working that I really like, and I think I share both Dara and Lisa's feeling towards it. I think on the one hand it's fantastic, and it's very giving, and it's surprising, and you get a lot of gifts from it. And on the other hand, it's painful and anxiety-provoking and frustrating. Also for me, that's true. Because I mean, it's about trying to force the film to give you things that you haven't thought about. Or maybe not force it, but to try to find out, where there's those magical moments that happen when we've tried something and we try something else, or we retry something after we thought we had tried it already. And I think it's I completely understand that it can be a long process, and sometimes a process that is hard to describe, because I cannot even describe it myself most of the time. And I think what's the toughest part of it is to maintain the belief that there will be a gift at the end of it. And there always is.
Yeah, and Lisa and Dar, they are professional actors, and they give us very powerful performances in this film. But you also, in the film, we see also a bunch of kids whom we never saw on a screen probably before. And maybe you can tell a bit how you casted these kids.
The kids, well, the teenager is actually done quite a lot in Spain. And we had very classical casting agent and with different auditions. So it was not the process was not more special than any other processes. What makes it harder is when you have to have auditions abroad and to not know the people. That's what's challenging. But I'm very grateful for the people we're working with as for casting in Spain.
All right, it's the time to wrap up, and thank you very much.